All right, guys, so I got quite an assortment of stuff here today. I just want to talk a little bit about salt and why you need to watch out for it because it's kind of like a silent killer. So a lot of the time, so the reason salt's so bad for your cars is because it has more of an acidity to it, and because of that, it'll eat away at whatever surface it's on. So when you have things like your plastics or your paint or metal, over time it can erode them, and because it's eroding it, it leaves that surface susceptible to other contaminants. So if you look at what salt can do to a car, it can make it rust, it can cause it to look faded and worn out. There's just a lot of things that can go wrong with salt, and you notice this a lot, especially on the underside of the car, because that's the part that people aren't going to be hitting as much when it is winter. This is just kind of like maybe dirt in general too, just normal wear and tear. But for the purposes of this video, and because it is winter where I'm at, I'm going to be focusing a little bit more on the salt aspect of it and how you can just maintain a few things within your car to make sure it's not going to be too worn out once the winter's over. So I've detailed quite a few cars, and one thing I've noticed is that consistently, people who don't take care of their cars, you can tell because the driver's side area will have salt damage like all over it. And it's a little harder to see, but basically, if I had an example, it's basically just like crusted salt dust. And getting that out of like carpets and stuff is basically impossible unless you're like a mad alchemist. I don't know, are you? Okay, I'll take that as a no. But there's definitely ways to get it out. I just haven't figured it out yet. I think being preventative is more important than it is to be retroactive anyways. So here I have a floor mat that I've let salt for maybe actually a month now. I've let it salt up for about a month. And so I've just, used my car, gone in and out, done the normal stuff with it, and it's gotten pretty salty. So because there's so much salt in there, it's gonna corrode at a lot of the protectants I've put on there. So one thing that I made a mistake about when I first got these is I put plastic protectant on. It's not a bad thing, but it causes it to be kind of slippery. The last thing you want when you're using a floor mat is for it to be slippery because you might just like slip off the gas or something, slip onto it, I don't know. So I've let the salt sit, and I've had it going on all my floor mats actually. And I haven't done that on purpose, it's just sometimes I'm driving people around and whatever else. I'm just going to demonstrate a few tools you can use to take care of it. Obviously, cleaning floor mats is pretty straightforward, especially the plastic ones. You can use your pressure washer with some APC. You could just use APC hand scrub. You could use literally interior cleaner. You could use a waterless wash. You can literally use whatever you want, basically, for these kinds of floor mats, which is why I love them, and I think why a lot of other people love them, and they're super easy to clean. Unlike carpet, things can get like inside and under it, and it takes a little bit more effort to get out. And usually you have to vacuum, and no one likes vacuuming. A couple tools I have. So I have two different types of drill brushes. Both of them are medium bristles, so they're a little more stiff. So I have this blue hand brush here, which is what I'm gonna be using personally. And then I have a drill brush, which is another option you could have. I find that the blue drill brush is a little aggressive for me, and it's like hard to control right. So the hand brush is a little more my speed. So we're gonna be taking out some of this dirt and salt, and I'm just gonna show you how easy it is and how easy it is to restore the floor mat to its former glory. Not that you guys know what it looked like beforehand, but you can trust me, it looked like a normal floor mat. And to finish this process, I have two dressings. I'm not gonna use both, but I just wanna show you both of them. So I have a silicone one, and I have a water-based one, and they look pretty similar, and that's because they are. The water-based one is just, like compared to the silicone, it has a much higher dilution ratio normally, and it's using, it has a different base. So the base is water here, whereas with this one, the base is silicone. And so the silicone's a lot more durable, and so it's really good for like anything that's exterior, or it could be used really anything on interior. You just want to be careful because it is slippery and greasy, like even if you work it in a lot. And then this one is that, it's like 404, I think, but I can't remember the name. And they basically say that it's like not greasy and not slippery. Although I have noticed that it does tend to if you don't work it in enough. So with this stuff, you gotta work it a ton. Like, I'm meaning like, you gotta go like to town. Just rubbing it in. I'll show you guys. It's like crazy. But if you work it in enough, it'll be pretty much like just, you know, looking good without any of the slipperiness. But if you want to be safe, you could just altogether forget that. So for the chemical, I just have APC, just nice and simple stuff. But like I said, you could basically use anything and you'll be fine. I know they make like specific cleaners for floor mats, but I personally don't find that those would be necessary. Just like I wouldn't find a seatbelt brush to be necessary, right? It's just like a little bit overkill. So you can get it and it will do a good job nevertheless, but in terms of, do you have to? Like, I'd say heck no. I feel like detailing is like hella overcomplicated and it doesn't really have to be, so. So I personally like to be pretty heavy when I'm applying APC to mats, just because APC is usually pretty cheap, much like waterless wash. So I've got a nice thick layer and that'll help to absorb and kind of dilute any of that salt. So after I brush it, I'm just gonna use a microfiber towel and just wipe it all up. Normally you'd use a pressure washer and just pressure wash it out, but not gonna be doing that. So you might notice it might look basically clean now, other than the cleaner that's on there. And that's gonna be normal. Wetting down floor mats is they'll usually look very clean, but you need to make sure that you're hitting everything with a microfiber towel after, so that, you know, the microfiber towel takes on the dirt. And so when the APC dries up, it doesn't like re-cake the dirt on there. Because basically what's happening is a lot of the dirt's like diluted into the water. So if I just let this dry as is, it would look pretty much the same as just before I sprayed it down, because all the dirt's like just in the APC, but it's just suspended in it. So if all the water was dried up, then you would just be left with the dirt again. So that's why it's important to make sure you dry it up or vacuum it or do something to get that liquid out of there. And you can see the APC looks sort of brown. It might be hard for you guys to tell that though. I'll let these dry and, I'll show you guys what it looks like after, just so you can kind of see that, this is something that works, one, and then also two, like, it's okay to leave salt on your floor mats for an extended period of time. Like, another thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that like, how often should you really detail your car, right? How often should you try and clean it? There's no sense in being overkill because you're just going to be wasting your time. Unless that's really all you care about is, detailing, then, you got some problems. But anyway, and you can see there's still like a few crumbs on here. I should be able to just shake this off and it would be pretty much good to go. Most of the time people miss the back of floor mats, but I mean, like, come on. Like, do I really need to hit any of this? I mean, other than with maybe like wiping it with a micro real quick, I think I'm good to go. Like, and you can see it's already starting to dry a little bit. Like in this corner here, it's looking pretty dry and there's some dirt, like crumbs there, but I think that was just from my hand. Like, one thing I don't love about these kinds of floor mats is when you do like air freshener and stuff, it kind of just gets in the way, because usually you want to spray air freshener like on the carpeted floor mats, but then these, like, you're not going to be able to have the air freshener digest into there. So I'm just gonna throw this on the floor, let it dry. All right, so while we're letting that one dry, I figured I might as well treat you guys to a little bit of action with the rest of them. So let's do it. Let's brush them down. Boom, done. All right, so I just got the other mats done. I don't know what that was. Still a little sick, unfortunately. So I went to my gym today. It was like busy as heck. There was so many people there, I couldn't even find a place to park, so I just left. I'm like, I'm gonna record. I haven't done that, I've been lazing. And so I'm gonna be going after this video, but it's just like crazy. I've never seen something like that. Like, even if I did manage to find a place to park, like, what am I gonna use 1 square foot to just like rave in or something? Like, I don't even know. Weird. So look, I've given this mat like a good amount of time to dry. There's still some spots that are wet, but you can see there's clearly still dirt on it, right? Like there's some here, 100%. And then there's also some in these like corners, which, you know, I couldn't really get my finger in with my microfiber towel. I mean, like, this is why you just want to use your pressure washer on these, not on carpet floor mats, though. I'm gonna be talking about that eventually. You know, I could just throw a little bit of APC here and then just use a hand brush maybe, or I could just use a towel real quick on it. Previously, I had applied that silicone protectant here, and so it was a little bit irritating to try and drive on, but now that I've let the salt sit and kind of destroy that protectant, it's kind of nice feeling. It's got a good grip on it. And so I want to try this water-based dressing on this and see if I can get it down polished to where it's a nice, like, gummy feeling like this. Like, I don't want to be slipping around on this, but I also want to be able to maintain its nice, dark, full appearance. For this stuff, you don't want to apply a lot. Well, I'll just do it. I'm going to do, like, maybe, like, you know, 2.5 squirts there. And I'm just going to rub it in. And I'm just doing this with a microfiber. With these kinds of protectants, you always want to start with less is more, because as soon as you put too much on, it's going to be greasy no matter what you do. With these two, there's a little bit of slickness already getting on there. But you can already see that even though there was dirt like up here, you can barely even notice it now. I mean, don't look too closely. Fine, it's still there. This isn't going to dry at this point, so this is how it's going to look. And I could maybe add a little more like here, because this is like the vertical footrest, so it's not gonna matter if it's slippery too much. You know, I might get like one more spray going on over here-ish. I'm just like trying to gauge out really how much I wanna use before it becomes too much. You know, I'd say a safe like 3 full sprays, it seems like, for your driver's side, and this is a pretty big mat. Just get one more spray there. And I'm really working this stuff in because that's what they say to do. And is it still greasy? Yes, they lied to me. I don't know, they might change their formulas. It's not really that greasy where it's gonna cause me any issues. Like, guys, I'm pressing pretty hard on this and I'm barely getting like any shiftage going on. So you can see with a few quick steps, you know, not super quick, but I did have to take my time explaining things and all that. I could do a little bit better of a job, but you know, I'm just demonstrating really that getting that salt off the car and off the individual pieces inside the car is really important. And it's going to be more important to get the salt off of places where it's going to sit, like your seats. Leather can get pretty bad, and probably the floor mats is going to be the 2 worst spots. But if you do have that carpet, it's going to be really important that you get that out sooner than later, because salt on the carpet is that's where you know, you get the goofy gumdrops going on. Like, that's where it's, because I've seen a lot of cars where the floor mats are just destroyed because the salt was left to sit too long, and because of that, it just got annihilated. And I get that people don't have time to detail every single week. I'm not expecting that. I mean, like, I would honestly detail my own car maybe once a month maximum. And because I do that, it usually takes me about an hour to do the whole thing. So I don't know. I kind of do it in stages though. So like, if I didn't see flat tires, I'll just do more carpet. So I'm not doing the same thing every time. I'm doing like yeah, so that if you don't get that salt up though, it's gonna just eat up whatever it's sitting on, just because of the nature of salt. It's more acidic. And so even when it's dry, it has that property. So yeah, I'm just gonna get the little bit of protectant on the rest of the floor mats. And the point of that protectant is literally just for something like this, like normal wear and tear, like this salt here. Or maybe even something simple like UV rays. If I get more salt on here, it's just gonna eat at that protectant first, and then it'll eat at whatever's under it. So that's the idea with the protectant, is you just want a little layer that's not gonna cause your feet to slip all over the place, like spaghetti noodles just came out of a vat of hot water. Yeah, well, yeah, anyway, hope you all learned a little bit something about taking care of your floor mats, as well as watching out for that salt. And I know I've been harping on salt for a while now, but it's really important, especially during the winter time, and that's the time of the season for me, so that's what I'm gonna be talking about. But I will get into some other topics, don't worry. I got one coming out for Valentine's Day that I think you guys are gonna love. Yeah, simple stuff, not too funny, honestly. Sometimes it just don't hit right. Oh yeah, just another tip. If you're ever wondering why your floor mats may have that little bit of brown coloring to them, just use some of this on it and it'll honestly help a ton. Like that faded brownness is coming from something that the plastic lacks, and a plastic protectant is what helps it. So I'm not sure the exact science or chemicals behind it, but it might just fill in some gaps that make it look dirty, or I really don't know. So if you're ever finding yourself struggling with a little bit of brownness to your mats, this should help a ton. Maybe it won't restore it perfectly, but it'll help. Love you guys.